What's up, everyone? This is Pete here with another take, and today, together, we are going to react to Taínos in New York. It was a video that was put out back in 2008. It featured George Estevez, Roman Guadarrich Perez, Ika Mateo, and also Luis Ramos. I'm going to give my grounded take. If you guys looked at the last two programs that I did with Macho, which you can look at in his YouTube channel, Macho the Conqueror, one theme that I emphasize, especially on the last one, everyone in the Taino community is looking for something to connect back to. And I recently made a comparison with many of the Afrocentric movements here in North America. So we're going to look at the clips. I'm going to give my grounded take. Hear me out on this. And let's get right to it and observe take one.
Taino Indians, I wouldn't say that they were, it's who we are.
Okay.
We're very much
First
still here.
correction right there.
There you go, right off the bat. Well, the Taino people, or what we call the classic Taino, which were the people that Columbus encountered in 1492, were a mixture of a bunch of different peoples that had entered the Caribbean stretching over 7,000 years. And these were the people that Columbus basically encountered. It was a mixture of all these different people that became the Taino.
What islands were they?
Well, they stretched all the way from the Bahamas to Jamaica, from Cuba, all the way to Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, Haiti, the major Antilles.
Okay, and why is it that people, and you can answer this question as well, why is it, all of you can answer this question, why are so many people under the impression that the Taino Indians were extinguished?
Well, that has a lot to do with historical inaccuracies. Certainly, the history is written by the conqueror, not by the conquered. And basically, since the very beginning, before 1492, there were no Indians living in the Americas, because Indians, that the name didn't apply to the people, the aboriginal peoples of the hemisphere. As soon as Columbus landed, he called people Indians, then we became Indians. Later on, we became Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and so on and so on. So in every stage of history, we're labeled as something different. And this is how basically, bit by bit, we get written out of the picture.
Now, so we're back. So basically, what he stated, something I've been saying for a while, basically what happened to the Taino was that they were absorbed into the modern population. And we see this through example when we look at the article published 2017, Taino and African Maternal Heritage in the Greater Antilles. Taino ancestry is mainly prominent in the former Spanish colonies, and that would account for Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and also Puerto Rico. And they would give rise to, respectively, Cubans, Dominicans, and Puerto Ricans, who today are descendants of Taínos and also descendants of those first contact interactions. So we have to be also careful when we're talking about the conquered, because we are a modern product of all of those themes: the good, the bad, ugly, and also the sad. So, just to be a lot more realistic, right? Because due to post 1492 contacts, hybrid populations as a result of those interactions gave rise to new ethnic groups in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. And today, that is respectively Cubans, Dominicans, and also Puerto Ricans. So now, before continuing to my next thought, we're going to look at the second take.
Well, I'll tell you, from the very beginning, like in the beginning of the 1900s, most historians claim that the reason why many Dominicans or Cubans and Puerto Ricans had certain indigenous phenotypes is because of Africans and Spanish mixed to different degrees. Eventually you will get something that looks Indian, and that of course is pretty ridiculous. It's very racist in a sense. So in 1999, Juan Martinez Cruzado, a geneticist from Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, from the University of Mayagüez, decided to do a study. Well, basically, they took 800 samples from throughout Puerto Rico, and these were all based on census records, in different municipalities. And to everyone's surprise, even to the geneticists that did the study, 61% of all Puerto Ricans have mitochondrial DNA in them. Now, mitochondrial DNA is the DNA that's passed down from the mother to her children, but only the woman could pass this down. Basically meaning that the mother of the Puerto Rican people was an indigenous woman. Okay? Now they've actually taken this study to the Dominican Republic as well. They just concluded a major study there in June with about 500 something samples, and already the results are coming out. And of course, a lot of historians who had always claimed that the Taino people were completely wiped out are now at odds with this new study. And of course, the way I see it is that history could be manipulated by the conquerors, by the historians who are writing these things. But genetics is something that you can't really argue with because it's a complete science, basically. What I get from them, basically, is that, for people who have built their careers talking about this extinct population and how we have nothing to do with these Taínos, because basically for us in the Caribbean, the Taínos are our precursors, but not our ancestors, basically. This is what they say. But now to have a study that says, no, you were probably wrong. So just like a prosecutor who prosecutes someone only to find out later on that DNA will exonerate you, they don't run to jail with the keys to let you out. They stick with their story. And that's basically what they're doing.
So basically, what he's saying, if we look at the data, through major DNA testing, we found out that the Taínos live on through admixing. And that will give rise to new hybrid ethnic groups who today will become descendants of Taínos, because we have to look at it realistically. Today, in the 21st century, we are not the Taínos of yesterday. What do I mean by that? What I mean is we are not the Taínos or the natives that Columbus initially encountered in 1492. Today, in the present, we are the descendants of Taínos and also the direct descendants of those first contact interactions, right? Those descendants of Taino mothers and also African mothers who admix with the Europeans that will give rise to the hybrid ethnic groups who are their modern descendants today.
But we want to meet your colleague here, Irka, and she's here with a whole bunch of incredible instruments that she was playing right before we began, and it was, the sound of this thing is amazing. It sounds like a drum, but it's a piece of wood.
Yeah,
Welcome to the show, and tell me about the music of the Taino.
It is a piece of wood, but it's an instrument, and the name is Mayahuacan. This is one of the instruments that we have in heritage, and this is, as you just said, is made of wood, and it's carved.
On the
yes,
side.
inside.
Okay.
See, so that makes the sound, and we have
What
this.
is the sound? Show us the sound
Yeah,
that it makes.
you play with these sticks of rubber, the rubber in the points, so it makes a very nice sound. If you play this side, it's different, you see? So this makes all the magic, this rubber.
Does that more or less take the place of a drum, or do the Taínos have drums of their own?
This is the Taino drum.
This is a Taino drum.
And another instrument that we have of Taino culture are the maracas that is played all over Latin America.
And is that original? I mean, can we say that they started with the natives of the
Yes,
Caribbean?
yes. They have this kind of maraca that are played like this by the Indians. And we have another kind of maraca that was for ceremonial purposes that was different because it was made with a piece of wood in the center, but it was open. But it could not go out. It was open and tied here, And so we had two different maracas. And another instrument that we have is the guamo, is the shell that he will maybe blow
when
it.
I was a kid,
When Ilka speaks about the Mayahuacan, when we look at modern Spanish Caribbean music today, from the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, When you look at different genres, merengue típico, salsa, bomba, all of those things today, right? Those are examples of cultures being absorbed and blended in, becoming a stew, like a sancocho. So we can see various elements of the Taino, we can see various elements of the African, and we can also see various elements of the European, all blended in. And that's how it lives on today.
The tip right here,
Yes.
and it becomes like a trumpet or something.
Yes,
right?
it
The
is.
tip here, and well, this is like what I always tell people when I talk about our culture. This was our cell phone over 500 years ago.
Your cell phone, okay?
It's
This is
your
the
phone.
way our people communicated. When we blew this conch shell, you're able to hear it from mountains from one side to the other. It's still used today in the Caribbean.
Believe it or not, people
Okay,
still
we're
use
ready.
it.
We're ready.
It's still used.
Play it for us.
Okay, I give you a little one here.
So the idea was to basically get somebody's attention on a far distance.
Absolutely. And it's still being used today in places where they have no electricity back home in Quisqueya and Santo Domingo, where there is no electricity, and the butcher will slaughter a cattle or a hog, and that's the way he communicates of how much meat is left, what meat he has slaughtered for sale, because he has no way to refrigerate it. So they still use it today.
Well, to educate ourselves on our Taino-ness, we can expand our knowledge through areas of archaeology, ethnohistory, and linguistics. And it will help us to expand our understanding.
You having us on the show, thank you very much. These are the type of things about education. And when we educate the people and we're able to do these presentations, it makes people aware, you know? You have people say, oh, this is a great one. People always say, my grandmother is Taino. Well, I say, if your grandmother's Taino, what are you? You're part of your grandmother's makeup, right? So, you know, it's just a
We
matter
have a
of
saying in
education.
Spanish, ¿y tu abuela dónde está, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of just education and a lot of people turn around. I mean, everybody that I meet that you bring this awareness, it's really great, you know.
So what are those other things that you have in front of you
Okay,
there?
over here we have also, this is a maraca, more of a ceremonial style maraca with the feathers on it, and this here is a sami. This is like one of the deities. This sami here is the sami of the Cohoba. The Cohoba was one of the people did in ceremony, the chiefs and the Bejique, in order to get in touch with their ancestors. And these pieces are made replicas. They're from original pieces. These are replicas from a family in Quisqueya in Santo Domingo, over in a place called Yamasa.
So that is a replica of the kind of art that the Taínos produced.
Correct. Yeah. And this is these are replicas that these family of brothers, hermanos Guillen, they were able to actually touch and feel, photograph real original pieces from the museum, Museo del Hombre and other museums in Quisqueya and Santo Domingo. That's where they're from, and they were able to replicate them.
So Taino ancestry is going to be looked at going forward in two ways. Those within Taino groups and those who observe their Taino-ness through their ethnic identity. And the reason why I make this comparison, in the early 2000s, I was heavily involved in the Afrocentric movement. And when I look during those times, I was looking for something to connect back to. And when I found out all those things were wrong, between 2011 and 2012, I had to reevaluate everything. And I soon came to realize that everything that I was looking for, I already had, was within my ethnic identity in being Dominican. Now that sounds like a controversial statement, but in reality it's not, because everything that I'm looking for is in my culture, in what it is in being Dominican today, and that's how it lives on today in the 21st century. So we have to be careful when we talk about examples, my great grandmother spoke the Taino language, or my great grandmother was an Indio. We have to look at that in various contexts. You know, we have to look at it as it lives on through the modern identity in being Cuban, Dominican, and Puerto Rican, respectively. That's how it lives on today. Because when we compare it to, when we in a romantic sense, in my opinion, it's comparable to the Afrocentric movement, because when you look at the Afrocentric movement, it's like also has a similar theme, something to connect back to. When I looked at the likes of Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakman, right, in ancient Egypt, it gave the wrong premise of, one ethnic group being descendants of ancient Egypt, when in reality, modern Egyptians are descendants of ancient Egyptians. And another comparison with Ivan van Sertima, giving an idea that a group of people was here in Americas before Columbus. And we know that today that's been debunked by major DNA testing. And sometimes the truth hurts, but it's important that we stay grounded within reality so that we can move forward and be proud, because history is not perfect. It has its good parts, and it also has its bad parts, and we have to acknowledge all of those things in between.
And how is that way of life different from what we are all used to knowing?
I think the key thing is that tribal concept that we're all related, and that we're all connected, and then we all must respect one another, even if it's giving some food, when you're hungry, or when you're down and out, to really reach out. That said, like the way say, esa persona buena gente, trying to unite people who have this common legacy, this common spirituality that we can all share.
So tell me.
So closing out, so when I look at that video, I see people who had something in common. And as I explained in the beginning of this segment, the underlying theme is something to connect back to. And the idea, when you look at them as they are speaking, it's like they're trying to rediscover something that was lost, but in reality, you did not lose it. It's been there. It's just that it's been observed from an entirely different perspective, and often something that was commonly romanticized, in my opinion, very respectfully. So in my opinion, that something to connect back to is through your ethnic identity, in your identity in being Cuban, in your identity in being Dominican, and also in your identity in being Boricua. That's how your Taino-ness lives on today in the 21st century. So with that said, share your thoughts, right? Don't be reactionary. Put some thought into it. And until next time.